like I said, welcome, and let's have a quick recap of what we studied for the week. The chapter on ethical considerations in human resource management. So who is going to bell the cat? Anyone can unmute and speak. I guess I have activated everyone. You have been empowered to be able to speak. So ethical considerations in human resource management. What is your understanding? You don't need to cover the entire chapter. The little you read or you studied, or what you understood from what you studied, can you just explain to us in few minutes? We have 20 minutes to do this, and the idea really is to see how we are able to comprehend what we studied, and we're able to take it from there. So who is belling the cat, or who is cutting the bell? Whichever is more comfortable for us. You are free to unmute and speak. You are free to unmute and speak. So who do I have? Or maybe I should call randomly. Toby Thomas. Toby Thomas, can you hear me? Toby Thomas, can you hear me? Can you all hear me? Please confirm you can hear me.
I can hear you, sir.
Oh, we have a young so since you can all hear me, what did we get? See, the idea is for me not to just come here and be talking at you or speaking at certain that we're all on the same page, and wherever the gap exists, I'm sure we'll be able to fill the gap. So what did you understand from the chapter that you read during the week, the chapter on ethical considerations in human resource management? Who is taking the lead? I called on two. Okay, someone is saying something.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, everyone.
Please go ahead. Good afternoon.
Yeah. So my about this topic, the ethical dimension of HR, is about the ethical nature of HR, or how HR deals with employees and the organization. For example, how they treat their employees and how the organizations treat their staff members. For example, they have to be fair. They have to treat them with respect. They have to see them as human beings and not as objects or things they gather, or as a means of production. They have to respect their ideas, their views, and it's in a two-way. For me, I see it as a two-way thing. The employees are being treated well by the HR, and also the HR has to lay foundations or give good examples of ethical procedures. So for me, ethics talks about morals, morality, moral questions, moral judgments, anything that talks about distinguishing between right and wrong. Then morality itself, to me, I see it as the ability to differentiate between and bad, or right or wrong. So ethical theory talks about the principles that guide ethics in an organization. That is the HR or the HRM or the management have to follow ethical procedures in dealing with the major or daily activities in the organization. Please pardon me for this noise, this background noise. So in our group, we did a little discussion. So let me just go by it. We talked about ethics as a framework that guides ethical behaviors. Like, for example, equity. That's equity, justice, and fair dealings within the organization. So ethics is concerned with that's doing right or wrong, behaviors that are right or wrong, actions or reactions or patterns of doing things in terms of being right or being wrong, you know. And ethics talk about people's behavior, employees' behavior, the management behavior, the human resource behavior, and the way they handle challenges and problems or issues that arises in the organization. Morality belief system, what you believe is right or wrong. You might be right or wrong, but people have their own perspectives and view to things. More so, it is important that the organization itself should know that their employees have their own views or perceptions about what the organization sees as being ethical or not. For example, when we talk about discipline, or maybe a staff member behaves in a rude manner to a senior colleague, normally the two parties are supposed to be called and an investigation is supposed to take place. But if the HR doesn't do that and goes ahead to know to blame the younger colleague, that's ethical. You're supposed to investigate, find out what is going on, because sometimes some people might want to favor senior colleague because of the position or because they don't want to offend them. But ethically, you're supposed to do things in a normal way, in a proper way. Secondly, concerning training and development, is the responsibility of the HR and the organization to provide training and development programs for them. But in some organization, I don't even want to mention my own, there is no room for development and progress. And if they see that you are progressing or you want to take a leave or you want to take permission or you want to be excused for a course, they will allow you go. But by the time you are coming back, know that you are waiting for your resignation letter. So those practices are not ethical in nature. That is not the way things are supposed to be handled. And sometimes I discover that even the HR department have little or no say to this thing, because the CEO sometimes might have the final say, and whenever they are talking or trying to give reasons why these things are not supposed to be done, I discover that they are not giving audience, and some of them are scared of losing their job. But in ethics, you're supposed to challenge these issues, challenge these problems, and if you are not given audience, you can either leave or just find a way to manage the situations. Many of these things happening in industries or organizations are not ethical, but there's nobody to voice out, because even the HR themselves, they are being careful. They don't want to step on toes. Employees are scared of saying their views, saying their minds. So I think that's all I have to say for now.
Thank you very much. Let's
Then
someone else make contribution. Thank you, Ogudu Balogun. That's a very good one. You literally have walked us through a whole lot of the content for the chapter in review. But of course, when we begin to talk about the practicality of it, we begin to share experience. But I need like two more people to make their contributions. Two, three. Let's hear you, Sammy.
Yes, sir. Can I say something in addition?
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. The first speaker has spoken very, very well. Okay, first, let me start by even establishing what ethics is all about. Right. Basically, ethics. When talking about ethics now, it's talking about the principles, the value that conducts or guides or governs now, so to say, the behavior of people in the workplace. Understanding that we're from different backgrounds, different environment, different perceptions, and then walks of life. So we're looking about how individuals conduct themselves, their behavior within the organization, and how organization also in turn behave with these people, the interactions, how they make judgment, and how works are being done. So we're talking about integrity, how people uphold honesty, areas of respect, mutual respect for each other, fairness in terms of dealings, responsibility, and taking accountable, being accountable for things that needs to be done, confidentiality in terms of information or of the organization and even individual, a level of professionalism. So all these things are some of the things, compliance also. So these are some of the things that we looked at or we see to be ethical in an organization. So bringing it down to our class for today, consideration. So now we're looking at the area whereby we're seeing how the human resource aspect manages people in respect to this thing, understanding that in an environment like this, an organization, people come from different environments. So we need the ethics that can uphold these ethics basically, that can then keep people in a professional environment that can bring us to equilibrium, that can bring us to, let me say, a level of equity whereby nobody feels cheated, nobody feels there's sentiment, nobody feels you're treating this person better than I do. So it's basically the practice of how we manage employees, all with fairness, with equity, ensuring that everybody are treated on the same level. There is no favoritism. There is nobody like you're better than I am. No matter the roles, now everybody follows due processes in terms of what we say. Okay, these are the principles, these are the values, these are the things we've set for ourselves. That it guides the behavior, the decision making, and our operations in the organizations. So that's just a little contribution from my end, basically.
All right. Thank you very much. And both of you have said exactly the things that are right. And by this point, we'll begin to see where consistency comes in. It's not enough to have statements of philosophical expression or what you call core values or corporate ideologies. I'm sure when we get to various organizations, we see all that in place. But what we're in for this afternoon is to begin to see what are those real ethical dilemmas we find ourselves in and how do you get out of it. That's what this class is. So, but for the sake of this class, we're going to have a quick run through the entire chapter. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So we're looking at ethical considerations in human resource management. Then you see the caption underneath it, activating organizational moral compass. It is moral when it is good and it is something that is generally acceptable to be right. If it is not generally acceptable to be right, we say it is morally wrong. Rewind to 1980s. For example, this is just for illustration. There are dresses that we believe are decent today that were not decent in 1980. Now, if you wore it in 1980, you'll be taken to be someone who is wayward without guard. But today, because we are redefining what is ethically acceptable, what is morally acceptable, you realize that things that could not hold in the 80s have become acceptable. So what is morally right itself is an evolution. And I need you to pay attention to this because organizations evolve over time. And because organizations evolve over time, you realize that what we hold to be true and what we hold to be right over time evolves. But let's look at the theoretical foundation, seek to understand them, although in practice, they won't always come as things you recite. But when you understand the underlying principles and assumptions, when you want to make decisions, these things begin to jump at you. And as they begin to jump at you, you begin to understand them in clear terms. So I did a quick review of about 13 slides from the chapter. Now, ethics is defined as being related to morals, treating of moral questions. That's what you define as ethics. That's why you talk about ethical standards. When you talk about ethical standards, there are things that have been taken in a particular profession or in a particular organization to be morally acceptable. Then when you begin to ask questions that bother us on morality, that's how you begin. Then, while ethical, on the other hand, is defined as relating to morality. So when we talk about ethical behavior, we are really talking about behaviors that relate to the level or degree of morality as is generally upheld in that society or in that organization. I want us to have it at the back of our mind that when you talk about ethics, actually the key word that should jump at you is what is morally acceptable. And there are ethical practices in HR practice in Nigeria as designed by the CIPM, Chartered Institute of Personnel Management of Nigeria. At some point, I'll look for it. When I get it, I'll share it on our group so that you see that there are things that CIPM expects of you, that anything below that standard, CIPM says you can take a work from that job. But the only problem that CIPM created with that is CIPM did not tell me how CIPM will keep paying my salary when I take a work from what I believe to be ethically unacceptable. And I'm sure you all understand. That's where the fear of losing your job comes in for most people. Very few people have the gut that someone like me and a few of my other colleagues have, that without having a job, we believe this is unacceptable and we take a walk. Taking a walk because we believe that we'll get the jobs that when we begin to search for jobs. But I would not advise everybody to follow my path if you do not have the capacity to endure it. Because for every job you walk out of, you will have a season of being without job. And that season of being without jobs can begin to make you rethink what is morally acceptable, what is ethically acceptable for you. But the most important thing I'll tell you is be guided by your morals, be guided by your ethics. Every job has its own ethical requirement, ethical standards, and everyone who has found himself or herself in such professions are expected to uphold such moral standards. And I don't want to jump, but we'll get there in various areas in HR management. Ethics is concerned with making ethical decisions and judgment. It means that when I want to make the decision is not biased. The decision is not because I hate someone. The decision is not because someone has insulted me or because someone does not respect me. The decision is based on the standard, ethical standard or moral standards we have established for ourselves, that this is what is going to guide us. In some organizations, you see people depriving or denying others of promotion because they do not like them. You hear people say that person is not just likable. Excuse me. What's your meaning? What's your business whether I am likable or not? What does the policy say? What does the ethics of our job say? Do what the ethics says. It doesn't matter whether I like you or I don't like you. Nobody cares. All we care about is this is what the law says, this is what the policy says, this is what our ethical commitment is. Then we begin to move by it. You can't tell me that one of our core values is integrity and you are getting me to lie as your subordinate. I will not. And I have had to say to my employers over the years that, look, if you want this to happen, I will not sign it. You have the choice of either sacking me or you sign it yourself. But even if you sign it and it leads to, I said, I will tell the truth that I know. I have done it and they've always known that, you know what, this is where this one stands. But you need to know where you stand as you build your career. Look, the way you begin to lay the foundation of your career in HR is what determines the kind of HR professional you will be. If you take a survey today of people's perception of HR professional, 99.5% at least of the time, people see us as evil people. They see us as people who boss them around. They see us as people who don't care about their well-being. But if you must practice successfully, you must be guided by ethical decisions and judgments. An ethical decision is one that is morally acceptable to the larger community. Telling lies is never morally acceptable to the larger community. Although you hear people say, oh, it's a white lie. There's nothing called white lie. You have only lied. And for every lie you tell to get a job done, you need to tell about 99 other lies to keep protecting the lie you have told. The reason is simple. If I lied to my MD today that we recruited 15 people, when in the real sense of it, we only recruited 5 people. Every time I am making a report on the performance of my department to the MD, do you know that I must keep putting the 15 people? The day I forget to put the 15 people and I put 5, then my life have been so whatever is morally acceptable to the larger community is what we're supposed to hold. And what is morally acceptable to the larger community is what have been clearly documented and communicated. And it's something that every one of us needs to know. Now, morality is defined as having moral qualities or endowments. There are some people you can't get them to tell lies. There are some people you can't get them to take biased positions. But for some of us, if our friend has a disagreement with someone, when that person's paper gets to our table, we begin to defend our friends and by depriving that person. In fact, you see some people's files disappear about the time of promotion. You see some people's documents disappear about the time they have to be sent on trainings. You see some people's performance appraisal reports read negative. And not because they are bad, but because the person assessing them has bias against them. And because of the bias, the person throws morality to the wind. Okay. When we begin to talk about ethics and morality, trust me, you are not permitted to use your mind. You are only permitted to follow the protocol, the standards that have been established to guide our corporate existence. So morality is defined as having moral qualities or endowments, and moral is defined as of or pertaining to this distinction between right and wrong. Your ability to discern between what is right and what is wrong is what is believed to be moral. And I hope we are following. And the reason is simple. When we get to the place where we begin to share practical experiences, you realize that a lot of HR professionals are not ethical. We are morally bankrupt. A lot of us are morally bankrupt. Because what we do is you recruit because somebody has given you money. You recruit because your friend has said, please help me employ this team. You do not recruit based on competence. You do not recruit based on performance. You rather recruit because it's from my own side of the country. Then you begin to see nepotism at work. And for as long as you put nepotism to work, you can never be an ethically compliant person. And it's something that we need to know. It's all about what is right and what is wrong. Okay, Patrick and Quinn wrote that ethics is the study of individual and collective moral awareness, judgment, character, and conduct. I like this one because he brought these words. It's not enough to be aware of what is right. It's enough for what is your knowledge of what is right to begin to influence your judgment. And as it begins to influence your judgment, it begins to reflect in your character. And of course, your character is your conduct, depicts your conduct, what you do. Character is your conduct in expression. It is when you express your conduct that we say, I don't like this person's character. But we need to know that you must be aware of what is morally acceptable, which needs to begin to influence your judgment, thereby affecting your character through your conduct. And it is something that every one of us need to pay attention to. Everybody wants to be HR, but we all believe that HR is you hire and you fire. I get to places and you hear people say, HR is not just to hire and fire. And I laugh because hiring and firing is not even up to 1% of what HR is supposed to be. Then there's this Amlin et al., 2001, who noted that ethics is concerned with rules or principles that help us to distinguish right and wrong. I brought this out because we needed to see the keywords. In this previous one, he begins to talk about awareness, judgment, character, and conduct. Now, in the next slide, he begins to talk about rules and principles. The reason we have rules at work, the reason we have procedural manuals, and the reason we have operating principles is to guide us into the right behaviors. Nobody begins to assume I understand what is acceptable. No. What is generally acceptable is clearly documented and communicated to everyone. And it begins to influence how we act. Then, it's only then you'll be able to say, oh, this is not an acceptable behavior. Oh, this is a wrong behavior. This is a right behavior. You can only discern between right and wrong when you know the truth that has been written, documented in form of rules and principles. And it is something that you need to know as an HR professional. You need to know whether you want to practice professionally as an ethical person, or you want to be a stooge in the hands of some people. Ethical concepts of frameworks in HR. The ethical concepts of deontology, utilitarianism, stakeholder theory, and discourse theory provide frameworks that can be used to evaluate HRM policies and practices. These things are to guide your policies and your practices. Number one, your policies are your expressions of intent based on what you feel is important to you as an organization. Your practices are the actual expression of your policies. For a lot of us, we have policies that are written down, but what we act, how we act, are a sharp contradiction to what we have written down. But this is what we are saying. Whatever you have documented must line up with what you express, what you practice. But we still speak a little bit about all this so that you understand them. An important role for HR professionals, please note, is to embed consistent application of ethical values in the organization so that they can become values in use rather than simply profess values. That's what I just said earlier. Values in use are activated values, not just values that are written down. You hear some people say, oh, our core value is ethics and diligence, ethics and industry, whatever we call it, hard work. But you get there, you realize that even from this management down, everybody tells lies. In fact, you can't work there if you cannot tell lies. Because for you to deal with a client, you must tell one lie to tell another lie to tell another lie. But we begin to profess that, oh, we're men of integrity, but in the real sense of it, we're not. And the reason organizations keep pushing Sorry, can you hear me now? There's a call came in.
Yes, you can.
All right, thank you. So, like I was saying, an important role for you as an HR professional is to do whatever you can. And in some instances, that could include losing your job. In some instances, it could include being called names. In some instances, it could include being denied promotion. But you must do all that you can to embed. To embed means to build into the system the consistent application of ethical values in the organization so that they can become values in use, being propagated and promoted by you rather than simply professed values. We have too many Christians and too many Muslims in Nigeria who claim to live by the dictates and the tenets of their faith. But when they get to work, they steal, they tell lies, they fabricate documents, but they still profess who they are. That's what this is saying. It's not enough for you to say we're fair, we're equitable, we're just. No. It is enough for you to say it and for you to express it. Now, deontological, I talked about the concept earlier, is from the Greek word, what is right. This is in your text. It says this theory maintains irrespective of the consequences. You already know what is right or wrong, irrespective of whatever consequences comes from it. Some will say, well, I told a lie and I got the job done. It doesn't make it right. That's what this one is saying. A lie is a lie, regardless of the outcome. The outcome might make you a billionaire, but it doesn't still make the truth. And one thing is, as HR professional, you are the conscience of the organization. You are the moral compass of the organization. You are the one that is supposed to uphold right practices and refuse to be given to any form of intimidation. Trust me, we all are faced with fears at different points in time. But some of us that are seen to be courageous are those who always choose to overcome our fears by daring the consequences, and the consequences have always turned out good for us. In fact, 90% of the time, in my own experience, I realized that I never got fired by standing for the truth. But I have seen people who negotiated, who didn't stand for the truth, get fired with ease. And you hear the management saying, don't mind that one. He doesn't know what he's doing. I work with someone that he will begin to say to people, don't mind him, he doesn't know what he's doing. Why? Because you have compromised your stance. So whatever good intention or recommendations you come with, they don't even believe it. But this deontological theory says that, look, some actions are just wrong or right, irrespective of their consequences. Utilitarianism is the belief that the highest principle of morality is to maximize happiness, the overall balance of pleasure against pain. Actions are justified when they result in the greatest good to the greatest number. So I put here, in other words, here, the end justifies the means. I disagree with that statement. And this statement is most, when you look at the ontological theory, the fact that it does good and it makes a lot of people feel happy. If it's the right decision, it will still be wrong. But when you begin to develop your systems and policies, where this comes in is that you must design your systems and policy in such a way that it is in the best interest of the vast majority of people in that place. Your systems are supposed to be fair, are supposed to be equitable, and in that way, they are supposed to benefit everybody, regardless of tribe, gender, age, or political leaning or religious leaning. That's the good side of this. You design it with everybody. That's why I say to people, when you want to design a system or a structure, don't design systems and structures with people in perspective. No, you will be biased. Design it in abstract. Just come up with an imaginary person occupying that role and design the system. So if it is your brother that is coming in there, he has met what has been designed. If it is your enemy, it has met what is designed. That is the idea behind this. Design it fairly. The stakeholder theory states that the organization should be managed SP, where's my phone? All right, I'm back. Thank you. So what that really means is that, look, whatever you do, you must take into consideration the best interest of all stakeholders in the business. Maximize their wealth, to create wealth. Then you have the employees. Their interest is to earn more reward for their input and to have a workplace that is peaceful, that stimulates their creativity and encourages their mental health. Customers want quality products and services. Suppliers want to be paid on time. And of course, local communities want development to come to their community as a result of your business. And one of such developments is you employ their people into your organization, so their children are not jobless. A good number of them are able to get gainful employment. Then number two, maybe you come in and you begin to do some basic things like you fix their roads, you fix their electricity, you fix water. Those are the things that local communities seek to benefit from businesses. Then discourse ethics suggests that the role of ethicists is not to provide solutions to ethical problems, but rather to provide a practical process and procedure, which is both rational and consensus enhancing, through which issues can be debated and discourse can take place. This is simply saying, give everybody a fair chance to be able to make a contribution into what is happening. Let my voice be heard. So it's saying that, look, it's not just about you solving the problem. It's about giving everyone that opportunity to contribute to the process of solving the problems. Because when people are involved in the process of coming up with a solution, they own the process. And when they own the process, they begin to contribute meaningfully to the growth of the business. Then there are key considerations that were talked about. There's the equity theory and there's the justice theory. We've been talking about it. Equity is everybody is treated as if they are equal. Now, equity and equality are not actually the same, and I need you to pay attention to that. Because we all perform various roles in the organization, the role of the MD is different from the role of the gateman. So you cannot expect me to treat the MD and the gateman equally. But equity simply means that what has been designed in the system to be given to the gate man, I must commit and I am obliged to make it happen. That's one. Then two, the things that have been designed for the office of the MD, he must get as well. And this is as a result of when you do your job grading, your job ranking, your job analysis, and all those things. It begins to show you the relative importance of various roles in the organization. And once you have determined that you have assigned rewards to them, the way you administer it, you won't say because the MD is the MD, he gets everything he's entitled to. You now say because the gate man cannot speak for himself, you deprive him of some benefit. I don't know, when some people come for interviews, you will begin to like, how much do you want to collect? And someone will say, how can you be coming from a salary of 100,000 and I put you on a salary of 500,000? It's not your business. That has been designed. That is what the salary for that role should be. So it's not the problem of the HR person. The job of the HR person is, we're supposed to fill this role. This person has crossed the T's and has dotted all the I's. This person has fulfilled all the requirements and all the conditions for that role. Whether the person is coming from a 50,000 naira job or not, it's not my business. My business is all that is required. I need to put the person there. So on my own part, I have complied with my processes and procedures. If we feel the person is not enough, it simply means that we have not done our job well by not defining our systems very well. Then we go back and define our system. But that shouldn't deprive that person of anything, especially when he has to do roles of internal growth or internal change of job. You say the person is an officer. How can an officer who is on 75,000 go and take up the role of a manager who is on 500,000? But the officer has the capacity. What's your job? That is why we are as HR to serve as the moral compass. To say, look, what is right is right. What is wrong is wrong. And that which is right is what we are committed to. And once we are committed to it, we get it to go. Justice is the process of treating people in a way that is inherently fair, right, and proper. Everyone desires to be treated right. The concept of justice as fairness proposed by Rawls states that natural duties and obligations arise only in virtue of ethical principles. Number one, every person is to have the equal right to the most extensive basic liberty comparable with a similar liberty for others. You can't tell me who are officers and you treat one officer better than the other. Well, in reality, that's what happens in our organization. And that's a dilemma for HR. And if that
Hello, everyone. Please, can we all hear him? Because I think I lost him.
Yes. My network fluctuated, but I'm back. So I'll backtrack a bit. All right. So all we're saying is, I said the reality in our organizations is that we have people on the same roles, on the same level, who are treated differently. I said it's a dilemma that every one of us, if your organization happens to be in such a dilemma, it is your burden, it is your responsibility to begin to think about how to solve the problem. And it's an HR dilemma, you need to solve it. Because we can't afford to keep having things like that. We must resolve it as soon as possible. Because everyone must have equal rights to the most extensive basic liberty. Then, B, social and economic inequalities are to be arranged so that they are both A, reasonably expected to be to everyone's advantage, and B, attached to positions and offices open to all. Social and economic inequalities. You just must be deliberate. Make things very clear. Make them very straightforward. Assign them, attach them. Before anybody comes in, they know that you have designed your structure the way it's supposed to be. You have defined your reward system the way it's supposed to be. It's not that when Mr. A comes in as HR manager, you deprive him of a cup of water every day because you don't like his face. Then Mr. B comes as HR manager, then you give him 2 cups of water. No, it must be the same. It must have been clearly documented and fairly implemented. That's what that is saying here. Now, HRM ethical guidelines. Ethical guidelines set how employees are treated in general and to the major HRM activities of the organization. Now, I will jump here because we're coming to the place where we begin to share practical experiences, and we speak a lot to that. But there are some guidelines that you need to know. The guidelines, now, you know there are several guidelines, but I'm picking the general guidelines from the text. Then we can speak to it. The guidelines set out below relate to how employees are treated in general to the major HRM activities. A, recognize that the strategic goals of the organization should embrace the rights and needs of employees as well as those of the business. It means that, I think it was in class 1, our first class, that I said that HR is meant to be the balancing factor in the power dynamics in the corporate environment. Balancing factor in that you must begin to weigh the interest of the employees vis-a-vis the interest of the business, the employer, and make sure that one does not suffer at the expense of the other. That's why at times you see the HR manager give queries and insist that people should deliver. And people will be like, you are loving the business or no. If the business ceases to exist today, all of us will be without job. But I also have issues with HR managers who begins to protect the interest of the business more than the business interest of the employees. No, when the employees begin to die, the business will begin to struggle. And when employees feel disengaged, the level of productivity in the business, in the organization will drop. So this is recognizing the role of stabilizing the interest, the needs of both sides of the continuum, with HR standing in the middle. Then B, recognize that employees are entitled to be treated as full human beings with personal needs, hopes, and anxieties. I'll tell you the truth. One major role that most employees have need of that do not exist in most private businesses in Nigeria is career growth. It's a clearly defined career progression. And that is not established. What happens in most cases is that people come there, their hopes are never met, their needs are overlooked, and it creates lots of anxieties for them. For example, how many businesses have actually implemented something to mitigate the burden of the removal of subsidy in Nigeria? Most organizations just continue with business as usual, and you believe that the people will just, after all, there are no jobs. I hear people say there are no jobs, and I say it's a lie. In the last how many years, I know how many times I've changed jobs. And I have always changed jobs, and the pay is always better than the previous one. So there are jobs. The challenge is, are you good at what you do? And can you stand for what you believe? If you can stand for what you believe and you are good at what you do, see, it's not just that, oh, I speak Queen's English. No. Can you solve real business problems? If you can, employers are looking for people that can solve problems. Then do not treat employees simply as means to an end or mere factors of production. We have gone past the 4 factors of production of secondary school when they say capital was more important. Now, labor is now being referred to as human capital. That means that human beings are as important as the money you need to run the business, if not more important. There are companies that do not have much money, but they have good people. And there are companies that have much money, but they have bad people. I give you 3 years down the line, the company with limited resources but with good people will outshine and outperform the company with more money but less qualified people. Why? Because the quality of decisions, the quality of their outcomes, their outputs will be better than that has money but does not have people with good quality decisions. Relate to employees generally in ways that recognize their natural rights to be treated justly, equitably, and with respect. I don't care what your title is as HR. You are just like one of them who begged to apply. I say to people, I am like you. I also begged to apply. And because I begged to apply, I could also be let go, just the way I'm letting you go. And as a result of that, we need to come to a point when we begin to treat ourselves, that right to fair treatment. It's a given. It's not a privilege. It's a right. And you must so treat people. Forget that you carry the HR manager role and everybody people want to come to your office and they begin to do the cross sign. Excuse me. When people want to come to your office and they begin to do the cross sign, sincerely, you better go and start looking for help. Go and look for a counselor to begin to counsel you. Go and look for psychiatric help. Because that does not mean you are important. It just means you are a terrorist. People should be excited to come to your office to come and discuss their personal, non-work related business or problems. That's when you are actually playing your role as an HR professional, because you are meant to encourage people. People are meant to see you and receive hope to want to work again. Not that they are thinking about coming to your office and they are jittery. Their palms begins to sweat. They begin to do the sign of the cross and you say, people fear me. Excuse me. The beauty in HR is that the people respect you. They long to be around you. Even when you have left, they still keep in touch with you. That's when you know you have done your job as HR. Okay, so we're coming to the place where we become very practical. And here, this is where I begin to talk about our ethical dilemmas. And of course, this one, at this point, please, I need everyone to begin to talk. Because here, the only way we can solve problems is when we begin to bring to the fore the challenges that we have faced at work. What are those dilemmas we are faced with? How have you been? Then someone can begin to tell you, I also experienced the same thing. This was how I was able to pull through it. But the idea here is for you to gain practical knowledge and insight into how to solve real problems. There are times that I have things to do and I am there's just this block in my mind, in my mind. I'm not just able to think through. I just call one or two people and say, come, guy, this is happening. And by saying, come, this is happening, we're able to share ideas. And before you know it, the idea on how to solve it comes up. No man can operate in isolation. You need me. I need you. So, dilemmas. How many of us, what are the dilemmas in recruitment in your organizations? Where you have been able to resolve it, how did you solve it? Where you have not been able to resolve it, then we can brainstorm on how to solve it. The floor is open. Who wants to bail the cat? Or who wants to cut the bell? Any of the two. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Okay, so the dilemma I have now in my organization is recruiting.
What's the dilemma? Just narrate the dilemma to us, then some of us here can also begin to come up with solutions for you.
Okay, so we're having a mass recruitment in my organization, and I'm the HR assistant, so I'm meant to be assisting the HR in recruiting. But what the problem I'm facing is finding qualified candidates. I've put job adverts on most social media that I'm on, and I've gotten a lot of CVs, but I'm yet to get qualified candidates. So my question is, how or where else can I put out the advert that I can get qualified candidates, and how can I make recruitment easy for myself?
All right. So who wants to help us? Professionals, the floor is open.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Susan.
Hold on. Osemujame. Okay, I don't know which of the recruitment sites or which job sites you are using to get your the kind of people you need for the employment. Yeah, the kind of candidates you need. But for me, when I want to recruit for some certain jobs, I normally use Jobberman. I use my job app. Then I use Indeed as well. Then also I use LinkedIn. I can still put the I send the applications there on my LinkedIn page. Then also I have some Telegram groups that I'm in where they post some job ad recruitment. So I still share there as well. So if you use all these other platforms, you'll be able to get the kind of candidates you want, and you should always still specify them. I don't know how you put your job applications in writing, or what if you are specific or particular about it. Like if you are using the Indeed app now, or my job app, they are going to ask you some questions, so you fill in those criteria and what you are looking for. And also for Indeed, they screen it for you. If the person is not up to the requirements, you will not get the notification on your phone, like this person applied for the job. I don't know if I'm making sense to you, if I have answered your question well enough.
Yes.
To an extent.
Yes, you are making sense.
Yes,
You're
you've
making
answered
sense to
my
me.
question. Thank you so much, ma'am.
All right.
Welcome.
Any other contribution before I say one or two things? Is Yetunde Akinlalu on this call? Tosan is not here. Sorry, I'm calling specific names because those are people who have worked with me, and what they did was to handle recruitment. So I would rather that they also say,
Hello.
Sammy,
Good afternoon, sir.
yes, okay. Well, okay, go ahead.
Okay, good afternoon. What I would like to say is we are also in a professional field, so we know people. So we could also use referrals and word of mouth. So you might also know an HR executive who knows someone that is good at that role that you're recruiting for. So word of mouth referrals is also a good way, it's also a good route to follow.
And I'm sure Samudia is writing. Mr. K, go ahead, please. We can barely hear you. Please come closer to your phone.
Okay, yeah, I said that Adeline basically just said what I wanted to say. Referrals, I think, is a major tool that Osamu Dame should explore. She's an HR assistant or not, you are an HR, so I expect that you should try to get in touch with, going through groups. We have several groups, HRIP, several groups online, on WhatsApp, on Telegram, that you could go in and reach out to people that are recruiters themselves. So you could just say, is there any recruiter here that, now a recruiter will always have series. They have. You guys have your communities. So reach out to any recruiter that you know, then say, oh, I need this role. Do you have any CV that fit into this role that I want to recruit for? And also on LinkedIn. Now, for LinkedIn, what you can do is go on LinkedIn and search for certain keywords. If you are recruiting for, let's say, someone in sales, search for sales, or just like sales there. People that are open to work, LinkedIn will pop them out. Because LinkedIn already has open to work. So people that have open to work in their profile, LinkedIn pop them out, and you can then go to their DM if you want to do target this you want to target them, then go to their LinkedIn, their DM, then try to get them to come to your organization. That if you want to use that platform. So that you can use it for me. Referrals for me is actually the best, so that at least you know the person that is referring someone to you, you're actually getting a tailored candidate for what you want. So LinkedIn and that referrals is that I think
Thank you, sir.
Explore.
Thank you. I guess that for those of us who are into recruitment, we always talk about our recruitment pipeline, right? And it is essential that you actually, and I know when we want to talk about recruitment and selection, we should be talking about that, but there's something you call recruitment pipeline. But there's something a lot of people don't use. I don't know what category of staff you are employing. For example, if I'm doing executive recruitment, I don't really most times leave executive recruitment alone for people working with me, because it's a top level recruitment. And me, I go on LinkedIn. I search with keywords. I scan through your profile. Then after reading your profile, if I'm convinced about what you put on your profile, I send a request to you and attach a note to it. And for those of us who work in healthcare, whenever I want to recruit consultant radiologists and aesthetists, those are the things I do. Then I also talk to hospitals I had worked before, there are consultants who are my paddies. I also call them and say, Doc, I have this role. I need you to recommend someone that is good for me. Now, the reason they would recommend to you is because they know that you, as a person, you are a good person. And they believe that you would not want to bring the person to a bad place. So you also need your own integrity intact as a professional. If I don't know you to be someone who is sincere, if you ask me for referral, I'll tell you straight, I don't have. Because I won't want to pull someone from somewhere to your side and the person is messed up. So as we talked about referrals, let's also begin to build a track record for ourselves of people who are ethical, because that's the basis for what we're talking about today. But there's something I need you to know. For various categories of staff, you need to have a talent community. You need to deliberately put something in place that can help you to keep track of people who had applied to you that you did not even need. That when you need them, you have a pool to always go back to and begin to do that. Because mass recruitment is a regular occurrence in healthcare, especially when your hospital is big. And when you have to recruit heavily, it's not when you need the roles to start looking for CVs. There are times I deliberately advertise when I don't have any role. But I already anticipate that from our historical data, from this period to this period, there will be mass exodus of the Japa syndrome, especially for nurses and doctors. And because we know that that will happen within maybe the first quarter and the fourth quarter of the year and the fourth quarter of the next year, deliberately you begin to prepare for it. Just do your adverts, get your. At time that people are not looking for jobs, job seekers, they are not actively seeking for new employment. They have a job, but you can get them out of where they are. And those are some of the things you do. So you need to begin to constantly, before the need arises, begin to create a pool. Just at some point, push out the adverts, get the CVs, and deliberately, once in a while, maybe once in a month, send an email. Oh, there's something. Oh, this to acknowledge the receipt of your CV and for you to know that we still have your CV in our database. When we get to that time, we'll reach out to you. However, is there anything you'd like to know about us? Just a short mail. When you send it to them, you remain fresh in their memory. And even if 25-30% of them are not available, a good number of them will still be available to do that. And like they said, Jobberman, but I tell you the truth, Jobberman is not useful for some roles. I use Jobberman for executive recruitment, for consultant and aesthetics. In less than 24 hours, I saw 52 applications. I was happy. But when I went to go and check it, not one of them was a consultant and aesthetist. They were just a bunch of people who just did it. So since that day, I personally stopped using Jobberman for my executive recruitment. So I started headhunting by myself. And you know the roles that are very important to you. Look for them in their network. If they are technical roles, they are junior staff roles, go to the school where they are trained. Sign an agreement with the school, head of the school. Open an internship kind of program. You know at some point you'll be needing these people, so they can send them to you as interns. Even when they're looking for a full-time role, and by the time they come in as interns, you take 2, you take 3 of them. When you begin to need them, you just pull them in. We did that in the hospital when we needed peri-op nurses and theater nurses, and we're not getting them. We went all the way to Oyo State to go and talk to the principal of one of the school of peri-op there. And by the time the principal recommended, and we're able to get 3 of them to employ for them where they are, and beyond the traditional ways to create your own pool for yourself. Some of those things will be written in textbook. Deliberately, I worked in a place and I said every department must establish an internship kind of arrangement. And all we do is bring in NYSC. They are cheap labor, but you begin to use them, prepare them, groom them. By the time they complete the NYSC with you, it becomes easier for you to bring them into your system seamlessly. For roles where they have where they do internship, bring interns into your organization. What it begins to do is it begins to cut your time to hire notably, and you're able to move on with that. Well, that's a dilemma, but the real dilemma in recruitment that has to do with ethics is you have interviewed and you have gotten the best candidates, and the manager comes and says, you know what, my sister is one of the people that interviewed, give my sister the job. And you know that no, the sister did not even do well at all. Then you begin to like, well, what can I do? We let it go. In some cases, I said, look, when the MD says I should recruit someone, the MD owns the business. I will recruit, but I will not recruit without giving the MD my own statement. So I came to realize that the last three MDs I worked with, to be sincere with you, they never interfered in my job. They never interfered. They allowed me to employ whoever I believe is the best, because so that when there is problem, they'll say, hey, child, the person you gave us. So, but there are some MDs that will say no, that will insist that this is the person I want. It's always good you have your own way of documenting those changes. But those happens in recruitment and a whole lot of other things. But your own experience will be unique, and you need to come up with ways of resolving your own unique challenges. Then salary reviews. You see issues around, you want to review people's salary, and they say, no, this one increased this one salary by 300%. And the other people, they are doing 25%, 10%. And you're like, what's the basis? And it's because the director of finance or the CFO likes the person, or the clinical director likes the person, or the general manager likes the person. And when you do this, the next challenge you're having is that every other person begins to come to you to say, oh, how did you do that? They won't go to the other person, they will come to HR. And it begins like, how would you do this? How would you do this? I could remember I had a case like that. When someone was made an assistant HOD, we reviewed the person's salary upward with the HOD. Then a few months later, within a few months, the HOD left. And this person was brought in as acting HOD. And my clinical director and my GM came to me and said, I should increase the person's salary again. I said, no, I'm not increasing the salary. They said I should. I said I should review that salary. They said, but now she's the head of the department. I said, does she have the capacity to be head of the department? If she does, let us go back and check our records. Sincerely, I said, instead of reviewing this person, let's give her responsibility allowance. Because tomorrow we may decide to bring in a more experienced pharmacist to come and head the place. So what happened? Are we going to revert the salary? Well, so she has gotten the salary she did not deserve. So at that point in time, they agreed, okay, let us do responsibility allowance. Because you need to always think about the consequences of all your decisions. Oh, someone was brought in to come and be acting head of department. What if the person does not perform on the job and you have increased the person's salary? You rather do an allowance that is connected to that acting capacity. So that the moment the person is out of the acting capacity, you can remove the allowance. Rather than in quote, promoting someone who does not deserve to be promoted. You now remove the person from the road, the salary now goes back. Because it won't make any sense to now change. You are paying me a salary of 300,000. You now say because I did not perform well, you're now saying my salary will become 250,000 or 200,000. We'll fight. And those are some of the things. Fairness and equity, you must pay attention to it. Then promotion and career development. We promote people by faces. Oh, I like this person. I like that person. Oh, sorry. Okay, manager. Hello. Go ahead, Susan.
Yes, can I ask a question still on the salary increment stuff before we pass that?
Go ahead, please.
Okay, in your opinion, at how often should salaries be reviewed for maybe general, maybe for heads of units and for the other team members? How often should salary be reviewed, or when should salary be reviewed? I just need to be clear on that.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
It's very straightforward. What does your policy? Okay, Ogolua.
Please, based on this salary reviews, please, what's the basis for 13th month salary? Number one. Then the second question is, I want to ask about pension. A situation where fine, there have been deducting the pension every month from the inception, and the person is not receiving anything till date. And when the person went to ask the HR that I have not been seeing anything, they're like, when you want to go, they will give you. The person like, are you waiting for the person to leave or not? This is not right. And you can't go, the person can't go beyond that to make inquiries. Please, what step can the person make, to start receiving? It's not a personal, it's a general issue, Sha.
I understand. I would answer your questions one after the other. Thank you. For Susan's question, you have a policy on salary or compensation and benefits. In that policy, it will state categorically the frequency of review of salaries for all staff or for various categories of staff. But I will tell you in real sense, the most practical and sustainable way. Salary reviews are only meant to happen once in a year. That's the only practical and most sustainable way, because they come with financial benefit and cost. And it's not just the amount you are adding to this manager's salary that is the main cost you are bearing. And it's something that we need to always understand as HR. You are bearing the cost of that increment on the person's pension contribution by the employer. It's reflecting on the cost of ITF contribution by the employer. It's reflecting on the cost of NSITF contribution by the employer. It reflects on the cost of the group life policy taken for that person, the value for that person. So then it will also impact on the salary leave allowance. So when you give someone 50,000 and say it's just 50,000, in the real sense of it, it's costing you about 100,000 naira or more on a monthly basis. So when you put all your costs into right perspective, you realize that for every 20,000 naira jump, the organization is experiencing about 40,000 or 50,000 naira jump. So it's not just by looking at it in isolation. It's a holistic thing. So it is better it is reviewed once in a year, and the period it is reviewed is documented. Everybody knows when it's going to happen. Number one, you cannot increase the manager's salary twice in a year and only increase the employee's salary once in a year. No. The only thing is put policies in place that says we do annual review. Even in the public service, their salaries are reviewed annually at the beginning of the year, first month of the year, and they call it. And the amount that is to come on your salary from the salary structure, you already know the amount that is coming. If you're on step 2 this year, by January, you are going to step 3. And by the time you get to step 3, you already know what you are earning. That way, nobody queries anything. Nobody raises any unnecessary questions. So that question is, put a policy in place that clearly stipulates how salary is reviewed across board. Then for managers, this is the mistake a lot of us make. There's a managerial vacancy, right? And you took someone in the organization who is a supervisor, not yet a manager, not in the managerial cadre. You move the person upwards and you change the person's salary to the manager's salary. But technically, the person's career progression is still a supervisor. What you have done is you have scattered this payroll, you have scattered the progression. What I always advise people is design a career progression for your organization. My career part and the administrative part are 2 different parts. Managers, HOD is administrative part. The HOD might be a senior HR officer. The HOD may be an assistant manager. The HOD may be a manager. But what you now do is the moment you are a manager as HOD, you are not entitled to any allowance because that's what you are employed to do. But if you are a supervisor who is more of a technical hands-on person, who is appointed as head of department, do a responsibility allowance And the reason for that is tomorrow the management may say, you know what, this guy has not done the managerial role very well. Let's bring a manager. You can easily return the person as the supervisor that he is. His salary remains the same. The allowance is taken away since he no longer acts in that position again. That way it won't create any chaos or confusion. But we want to use one rule fits all, and what it does is, suddenly someone that came into service last year, because you have made the person head of department, you move this person to the same salary with people who have been in the company for 5 years and who have really been performing. You will create tension, and it begins to create enmity in organization. So you see people fighting who have no business fighting. And it's not that that person has any direct issue with them, but the reason is they feel the person has been unfairly favored. So if I feel that way, then I begin to become very defensive. And that's one thing. So in salary reviews and all those things, salary reviews are not a standalone thing. Salary reviews connect to a lot of things, career progression, succession planning, and all those things. And what is the basis for reviewing salaries in the private sector? It may not be like it is in the public sector. In the private sector, your performance, in some places they say if you perform from 75% to 85%, they give you 20% increment. If you perform from 60 to 74%, you get 10% increment. If you perform below 60%, you don't get any increment. Then if you perform above 85%, they give you about 30-35%. It is clearly written in your policy. Don't forget, we're talking about ethical consideration. And it's all about morality, what is right and what is wrong. And the only thing that is right or wrong is what has been clearly documented and communicated. You know, it talks about awareness, judgment, character, and conduct. And so when you put them written down in clear terms, it becomes something that nobody can contend with. So when you give performance, when you give someone 35% bonus, what people are interested in is what did the person score? They say, oh, the person 85% or 86%. So, okay, that's what the policy says. And that way, it will create no tension. I hope that answers your question, Susan. For Ogolua, basis for 13th month. 13th month is not a contractual thing. It's a benefit. It's an expression of benevolence extended by the management to the staff. And 13th months are administered differently in different organizations. I worked in an organization where we recommended 13th month, and after going back and forth, what we agreed to was that the 13th month would be the monthly basic. So if I'm on a salary of 1 million naira and my monthly basic is 350, my 13th month will be 350,000, not 1 million naira. That was the agreement, because the management said that's what they could afford. In some organization, 13th month is your gross monthly payment. Of course, it will be the net of it for that month. So if your monthly net is 500,000, your 13th month is still 500,000. So in December, you get 500,000 in two tranches. But that is based on policy as well, what has been documented by the management. And the policy on 13th month can change from time to time. The management can come to them and say, you know what, we can't do 13th month this month. But it must be clearly communicated in good time, based on some things the management has directed that 13 months will not be paid this year. Of course, people won't be angry, people won't be happy, but it is documented. So 13th month is organization specific. Then pension deductions and remittances. That HR that made that statement can go to jail, because the HR will be seen as being an accomplice. What does the Pension Reform Act, Pension Act 2014 say? You have a timeline between the time you deducted and the time you are supposed to add your own contribution and remit. The pension deduction or contribution is an investment tool. It is paid into your retirement savings account with your pension fund administrator and it is invested on your behalf. Every month, every year, it comes up with interest. So why would they keep it for you? Your pension is not meant for you to be eating today. Your pension is savings for the future. So why would they do that? It simply means that they are deducting your pension. They are not going to give it to you. And the easy way to do that is if you write a letter to PENCOM today, the MD can go to jail for 6 months. I had said that I'm reviewing some laws in Nigeria, and you will see them. And you understand that for all these things, failure to comply can lead anyone to jail. And pension is one of it. Your pension is you are contributing your own. The employer is supposed to be contributing his own. Put the two together. And your own contribution is what percent? 8%. And the employer is supposed to do 10%. They add it to it. They save it in your retirement savings account. When you leave that employer, you go to a new employer. You don't open a new pension account. You take your old retirement savings account with your old PFA. You give it to your new employer. And with your PFA, you fill a form. They call it change of employer form. You ask from your PFA to give you change of employer form. They give you the form, you fill it, you send it to them. Then your employer starts making remittances. That is how it's supposed to be. So whatever the HR says that when you are leaving, they will give it to you is fraud. And that is not the way to go about it. And the law comes with the veil. But the problem we have in Nigeria is that we don't. PFAs also don't flag it. Because what you need to do is reach out to your PFA to say, look, I have not seen any payment in my RSA. Then they will say, oh, your employer has not been paying. But the truth is, the PFA has the right to demand remittances from your employer because they are meant to take custody and invest on your behalf. So speak to your HR. Your HR needs to know what to do, or else your HR will be seen as an accomplice, and your HR too can find herself or himself behind bars for that. And I hope that answers your question as well. Thank you. So we're talking about promotion and career development. There can be promotion when you don't have a career progression plan or a career development plan. What's a career progression or career development plan? It's a plan that shows progression within your organization. That shows that if I enter as an HR associate, at the end of 2 years, I should be able to become an HR officer or executive. I don't know how you want to structure it. And at the end of, and maybe another 3 years or whatever years, I can grow to become an HR supervisor. I can grow to become a manager. And that progression plan says that the highest level you can get promoted into is a managerial role. And that anything above the managerial role is by appointment. So I know that once I come in, the highest I can get to is managerial role. And I know for me to become a manager is maximum of 10 years. So I know for the next 10 years, I want to be here to become a manager. Or it's maximum of 5 years. I know for the 5 years, I want to become a manager. And I know beyond being a manager, I can't aspire to be anything again. Then I can begin to look outside. The reason people go to the civil service or public service is because from day one, in fact, before you entered, you already know that if you enter the service this year, you know how high you can get before you retire. People want to grow. People want to be promoted, not just for money, but because it also gives a sense of career development, and it's an aspiration that they want to attain to. So if you don't have career development plan that clearly stipulates how promotion is done, you realize that someone joined the organization 2 years ago, the person has become a manager. And another person has been there 5 years and has been very hardworking, but because somebody does not like his face, he's still an officer. And that organization will be a very parasitic kind of environment when everybody begins to beef everybody for no reason because the management has practiced what is wrong and HR is not advising accordingly. But the most important thing is you need to begin to do consider your career progression, because your salary structure is supposed to be an expression of your career development plan in the organization. How do you know that this is the salary level that this category of staff should get? Your career development plan or your career progression plan should clearly express that for you. Then performance management. In performance management, the dilemma we have is that most managers don't even know how to wait till the time to assess your performance to tell you what you're not doing right. Most managers do what you call halo effect. One thing is allowed to influence their perception of you. You have performed excellently well for 11 months. And the 12th month, the manager says, go and help me buy food. And you say, okay, I was not employed to buy food. And suddenly, performance appraiser is around the corner. And the manager says, you perform very badly. You don't have respect for constituted authority and all that. And what is the basis? Because you refuse to go and buy food, because you were not employed to buy food. And a lot of performance management systems I have seen are more qualitative than being quantitative. Qualitative in that we are measuring excellence or outstanding performance. And say, I expect you to perform excellently well during this period. But the question is, what is your definition of excellent performance? There is no excellence if you can't reduce it to numbers. So you rather say on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being excellent, 1 being poor, rate this person. And you say, I rate this person 7.5. And then if I am the one that is handling that, I'll ask you, on what basis rating this person 7.5? You say, because she's not. I say, show me evidence. So what it simply means is that on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, if you truly want to do a good performance management system, managers are meant to keep records of employee performance. KPIs must be set that are measurable. And as these KPIs are met, they are ticked off the box. So if I give you 10 KPIs and you have met 6 KPIs, automatically you have scored 60%. It is not questionable because there is fact, there are evidences to show for it. But if I'm not giving you clear KPIs and I'm marking you 60%, you begin to ask questions. That is why most performance appraisal exercises that we conduct, people aren't always happy. And don't forget, the outcome of your performance management or performance appraisal is supposed to plug into your career development, should form the basis for promotion. I know of some organizations that says that they don't care whether you have spent 5 years or 10 years. They will promote you if you score up to a certain percentage during a performance appraisal cycle. Or they will say, if you score 70% and above in 2 consecutive appraisals, you'll be promoted immediately. And you'll see, because it's really written down, nobody should fight. All you need to do is everybody begins to perform. But what he does is also he promotes this superstar syndrome. When someone wants to be the superstar in the team, and others can be anything. But a more balanced system is to both compensate for performance and compensate for duration, for tenure in the place. Civil service uses tenure, but you can do a hybrid of tenure and performance-based one. You can stay for tenure. When you have done 3 years, we promote you to the next level. But you can say for performance, when you have done 1 year and you scored this particular level of performance in your ratings, performance ratings, we move you. So you realize that you have combined the two together. It's been simply and clearly communicated. Everybody understands it. And they're able to. These are the basic jobs of HR. First is to document these processes. Second is to enforce them. For some of us, we're enforcing what has not been documented. So what we do is we use the rule of the thumb. For some of us, it has been documented, but we don't even pay attention to it. We just do our own thing. But the good HR professional is the person that activates what has been clearly documented. Then employee relations and conflict management. A lot of us don't know how to manage conflict. See, there are some of us, before the moment you receive a complaint about someone, you have judged the person already. You have not even given the person the opportunity to speak. For some, the moment the manager complains about a person, instantly you are punishing the person. Why don't you even find out? The problem could be with the manager. So the question is, as HR, a manager has sent a mail to report someone to you. How should you handle it? Can we get 1 or 2 contributions? I have come to you as a manager to report my team member to you, and I say, give the person query and suspend the person. What should HR do in such situations? Who is talking? Toby Thomas, I have not heard your voice. I called you earlier. Can you hear me, Toby Thomas?
Can you hear you, sir? Good afternoon, sir.
Toby Thomas.
Good afternoon, sir.
Finally, I can hear your voice.
Good afternoon, sir. Okay.
Good afternoon. So what should HR do?
My apologies. The question again, please.
I said I have come to HR, or I have sent an email to HR as a manager that my staff misbehaved with me. So I'm instructing HR to give the person a query and suspend the person.
Okay.
You have to advise HR. What should HR do in such a situation?
Okay. So as an HR person, I would advise that yes, from both sides, and do not judge based on one person's side of the story. There should be fairness, and it should be able to balance up the situation, or actually correct the situation. It might not necessarily suspend the employee, but give a warning. And if that happens, if it continues to occur, then it can go ahead with the suspension. But very first thing is, you should listen to both sides and be objective. You should not be biased. That's my only thought.
Thank you. You are very right. You must have a policy speaking to conflict management. Yes. And the policy on conflict management is begin to say that this is how conflict is going to be managed in this place. For every complaint received concerning someone, there will be a request to the person to give an explanation. That request in most cases is what we call query. But query itself is not bad. Query is an invitation to give explanation. Oh, they said you stole. Can you please explain whether it is true that you stole or you did not steal? But because people at times can overlook things, that's where you now see HR saying that you have within the next 20 hours to respond. Failure upon which some things can happen. So I'll tell you straight. Have a policy on conflict management. Do not take a position until you have heard from the employee. If the employee says, no, it's not true, I did not insult him, rather, he was the one that slapped me. At that point in time, you cannot handle it alone. Your policy now says that you can put a committee in place to investigate that situation, because it's already an argument, because the two of them are not agreeing on the same thing. And in order for you to take a decision, not to be seen as if you are siding the employee or you are siding the manager, let some other people come and get involved in the process with you. And you begin to interrogate. You invite the manager for interrogation. You invite the employee for interrogation. And you begin to probe. You probe, and from your probing, or from your probe, yes, the employee shouldn't have shouted, but the manager slapped the employee. But the truth is, there's never an effect without a cause. If the manager had not slapped, the employee would not have shouted or insulted him. So the question is, what is the punishment for shouting at someone? You can probably give a warning. Say, don't shout again. But what is the punishment for slapping someone? That is physical assault. Assault is a criminal thing. And in every organization, you are not allowed to assault anybody. And going to the extent of getting physical. The moment you've gotten physical, it's not a consideration. you realize that once you are able to establish that the manager actually slapped the person, the number one option you have is termination. So in some cases, the person that came to report the case might end up being the one who is at fault. And he thought I could use my office to harass and intimidate the other person. But as HR, you must investigate all matters. Jump to conclusions. Management. Tell the management there's a process. We will follow the process. Be careful not to bring biased people into the committee. You want to consider the committee to investigate me, and you are putting people who are favorably disposed to me only on the committee, or people you know are never objective. The outcome will never be good. But you just strike a balance between it. These are some of the dilemmas we have. Dilemmas that makes us do what we shouldn't do. Like someone said earlier, dilemmas that say, sack this person. And you say, why? Say, because I don't like this person. And I've gone through all these dilemmas, and I handle them my own way. And I came out successful out of them. But the most important thing is you must be known to stand for something. And it is that thing you are able to stand for that you begin to defend. And that's what people will respect you for. Now, HR professionals have a responsibility for guiding and promoting core values in the organization on how people should be managed and treated generally. We have core values in our organizations. Those core values are meant to be reflectors of what is expected of every one of us in the company. So why would the core value in the organization say we're given to excellence, but what we keep turning out is always filled with errors? Why would our core value say we're given to mutual respect, but we keep insulting ourselves? The only person that's supposed to promote and to guard those core values is HR. You see someone who has acted contrary to it, you hold the person accountable. They are particularly concerned with values relating to just and fair treatment. They can act as role models and challenge unethical practices. That's your job. You see, he said, but challenging can be difficult, especially for those of us who are always afraid. For those who are afraid for our jobs, challenging can be difficult. But no matter how difficult it is, you are expected to act as role models. That is, you have to model the lifestyle. That you cannot be saying people should come early to work and HR is coming late to work. You cannot be saying people should not sleep at work and you are the one sleeping at work. You cannot be saying people should not shout at others and you are the one shouting at others because you are HR. You must be the model of that which you expect people to do. HR professionals have a responsibility for guarding and promoting core values. 1, taking action to achieve organizational fairness. You must take action. Treating people according to the principles of procedural, distributive, social, and natural justice. What is procedural justice? That is fair, consistent, transparent, and properly considered the views and needs of others. That's procedural. Distributive means equitable reward and ensure people get what was promised. See, I have had issues around this in recent times. Even the last place I worked, one of the reasons I took a walk was we reached an agreement and they gave me an offer letter on how much I'll be paid. Then I got in and I was paid something totally different. And I'm like, no, you don't do that. But it took us 3 months for them to eventually come to pay me what they were supposed to pay. So you can imagine that if it can be done to someone at my level, imagine how much we do to people at the base. That's why at times what we say to people is, no, resume first. When you resume, we give you an offer letter. And by the time we give them the offer letters, we short pay them or we underpay them, thinking that they can go nowhere. And it's a lie we keep telling ourselves that there's no job for people. There are jobs for people. People need to just be bold. Then social, that is fundamental human rights and equality. You must treat people equally. You must let people express themselves without intimidation. And naturally, they are expected to achieve and the rules to which they are expected to conform. You can't tell me I can't go on public holidays. And there's no policies that says I can't go on public holidays. In fact, there was this one I had, and I began to try to challenge it shortly before I left, that they were not observing all public holidays. And the excuse for that is because it was an hospital. I said, but look, there are people that can observe it, because the ones who are not observing it are enjoying it as part of their day offs in their shift and rota management. They said they can only observe maximum of, is it 8 public, government declared public holidays in a year. So you see in such places at times, they go to work on the 1st of October. I said, because they have utilized, and I said, no, that shouldn't be as it were. But that's just one of it. Then he said, ensure that decisions or policies that affect them, that affect employees, are transparent in the sense that they are known, understood, clear, and applied consistently. The policies must be known. It must be understood. It must be clear, not ambiguous. Then it must be consistently applied. You cannot apply it to me in a particular way and apply it to another person in a different way. It must be applied equally and consistently. Those are the things that begins to make us know that this is an ethical organization. Oh, this organization operates ethically. And these are some of the core challenges in HR practice today. So let's talk. Let's hear practical experiences. I want to hear you. I guess we have a few more minutes, a bit more, very practical here. And I guess it's good to call them.
I have a question.
Okay, Susan, go ahead.
Sorry. All right. I
No, it's okay.
To find out. Most times we give query letter, just like you said, as then they give a response, then you give a warning letter. Now, at what point do you start start taking drastic measures? Okay, I'll give a scenario now. I have a staff that comes late, like perpetually, like he comes late. I have 2 staff like that they come late. I have given verbal warnings before. The supervisors have spoken before. Then I have given a warning letter, documented, an official warning letter. But still, they are not changing their ways. They still come late. Now I'm thinking of giving a second warning letter, but I don't know if that second warning letter is still going to do anything. So I don't know what drastic measure or what I can do to make sure that, oh, they are listening, like this is it, not about giving letters.
Okay. I'll say this straight. Number one,
okay.
Go ahead, Sammy. Go ahead.
I was going to respond to what my colleague
Please go ahead.
asked, because I've been in a situation like that before. Okay. There is this company I worked for before, right? And we're having almost all the staff becoming a perpetual latecomers. In all sincerity, there was nothing we could query, sanction, even deducting their money at the end of the month was not solving it. So when I got to a point, I was deputizing as the HR, and I spoke to my manager and said, okay, beyond this, if deduction of money, because people don't like their money being deducted, it's still not changing it, then we need to call for a meeting. We call for like a town hall meeting, and we need to hear from people what exactly is the challenges. So we started realizing that people are actually coming late. The reason being that, one, we say we're resuming by 8 o'clock, and somebody who stays around Nyanya and Maraba, because of security issues, cannot come out at the early hour, or let's say 5:36, to be able to meet up by 8 o'clock. So they'll now be coming out, let's say by 7:38, and then meeting up traffic. So before they get to the office by 8, it's already after 8, 9, even up to 10. So we now realize that it wasn't really more like people's behavior, but the circumstances surrounding their space, their distance now, committing to work. So we had to write a report and then present this to the management. And we shifted the resumption time from 8 o'clock to become 9 o'clock, then closing time to be around 5:36 there, about 6. All right. So, and to an extent, as little as that was, right, it actually turned the whole table around, and staff started coming in very, very early, meeting up, because we all understand security. Those early hours, you're being attacked, your phone is being collected, you're being stabbed, and all those things. So people were scared, and the distance was another thing. So that was one little thing we did. So I think beyond the query, right? If people can have a way of really, this is bringing the human in need. Okay, let's communicate, let's talk. What's the challenge? Why do you keep
I
coming late
understand
every
you.
day?
Okay, based on where I work in, when we do recruitment, the one thing I look out for is the commute to the office. Now, this late coming is not a general thing. It's not like it's like 50% of the staff. I just have 2 staff, and to shock you, one of the staff, the same place I come from, that's where the person is coming from. So it's not even a traffic where it gets traffic. So it's not even a traffic problem. We stay in the same area for one of the person. Then the second person, we gave an accommodation a stone throw from the office. So he's not paying transport. It's a stone throw from the office. So those are the 2 key ones. So it's not like it's like a 50%. It's not like it's 50% of the staff that comes late. It's just those 2 key people. And it's not like the issue is not the distance. Believe me, it's not the distance, because it's within the work environment. It's not the
This is basically
distance.
an
I know
attitude
very
problem.
well it's not the distance.
This
All
becomes
right,
an attitude
I'll
problem.
just
Maybe
say number one.
I'll facilitate for
Yeah.
yes.
Sammy, you are still saying something?
Maybe
All
you
right.
just story it again.
No, let's hear you on how to resolve this attitudinal issue. We're learning from one another.
Okay, sir. So what I would do, knowing very well that this one, maybe first of all, we could maybe try to see if we can put this person through a level of training, say maybe personal effectiveness and time management. All right. I did that training recently. I even posted it on LinkedIn, and some way it gained some level of visibility. And somebody, I think 2 people reached out to me that they want this training for their team. So now this we can say, let's even check what are these persons doing. All right, it's just that they're not managing themselves well, and it could be a thing that they've learned over time. So let's even see how training can help address this a little bit. If after training, and then we observe them for like a period of time, and these people are still bent on this, we cannot say, okay, this is not like a norm. It's like something that is not in the DNA of these people, and they cannot change. Then organization can now follow through their policies to do the needful, basically. But I still feel you should still give this person a little bit of, okay, let's train you. Let's even know what you're doing. Personal effectiveness, time management, how to just go about those ways. But if it continues, then you can now take the follow through with the person, the necessary actions.
For me to talk about it now, I understand what you're saying. Trainings we've done. They've done this job about soft skill training. They've done time management training. I often share them the link. They did the training and they sent in their certificates. It's been an ongoing conversation. We've had this your time. So it's been a talking thing, like it's just for 1 month or for 2 months, basically for almost like for the whole of this year. So that's why I'm moving asking it here, because we've been talking and talking.
Okay. My little experience in healthcare for about 11 years, the healthcare space is not your regular workspace. Especially when someone feels that the role he plays in the hospital, you cannot easily get replacements for him. But I need to say that HR does not take drastic decisions. HR decisions are procedural and they are based on previously established protocols. You have given verbal warning, you have given written warning. The question I'm actually going to ask is, what is documented in your employee handbook or your policy about late coming? If what is documented is after the 3rd consecutive lateness, we deduct a certain amount from your salary, it doesn't work. The next can be, we give you a working suspension. A working suspension means you will come to the office every day, latest by 8 a.m. You will sign into the office. You'll be asked to go home. You come back towards close of business. You will sign out and you will go. And the idea for that is to see if that would be enough for behavioral modification. But when you have followed what has been documented, I'll tell you the truth, we also get to find ourselves in some situation at times where we put ourselves in a very disadvantaged position. We want to love the people too much. I would rather say to you, follow your policy query. But when you see me issue a query, as in that is coming from me to someone, trust me, that person has gone way beyond it. But I want you to know one thing. Have your processes documented. What do you want to have? What level of lateness to work is acceptable? Now, if it is lateness, you're not able to do anything, they are not changing. One day, it will become not coming to work, away without leave. And by the time they begin to do away without leave for one day, nothing serious happened. They will do it for 3 days. Nothing serious happened. They will do it for 4 days. One day, their failure will affect your quality of care you are giving to your staff, to your patient. Do you understand? One day, you will get to that point where that person's non-availability affects the quality of care you give. What happens at that time? So I'll tell you straight. Yes, the training thing works. Yes, the friendly thing works. But please document. Document what is acceptable in the organization. If the organization says, the policy says it's 3 times, after 3 times we terminate you, write it down. Now, when the 3rd one comes and you decide not to terminate, you are putting human face to it. But what we're talking about, ethical consideration, is what is right and wrong. Write it down in clear terms. Once it's a policy that has been communicated, they know. It won't be Susan which haunting me. It will be, oh, I have flouted the policy. If I now want to say, oh, Susan is witch hunting me, then someone can say, Abba, they gave us the policy, and this is what the policy says. And that person will be able to. The reason we need to put these things in writing and in clear terms is for us not to be people, so as not we're not seen as vindictive people. Rather, we are seen as people who are procedural, people who keep to the ethics, who are morally justified by the decisions they make, because the decisions they make are in line with what is generally acceptable to be right. And that is it about it. Because when we want to see how to go about it, now your work space, your work environment is totally different from mine. So the human dimension to it will be slightly different. But what is most important is that policies are fair to everybody. Policies are uniform to everybody. And we just stick by that and adhere to the policies. Any other thing you do is you, Susan, trying to be...
Okay.
Go ahead, Adeline.
Okay, no, I wanted to ask another question. I don't know if you're done with Susan's question.
Yes, I'm done with that.
Okay. My question is on the hierarchy of HR. I want to know the stance between an HR associate, HR assistant, HR analyst, and maybe even HR officer, the hierarchy.
I'll tell you the truth. Everything is tautology, right? What you call HR assistant in some organization is what they call HR associate in some organization. HR analysts, from the word analyst, it suggests to you that the person gleans insight from data. So an HR analyst is meant to be a specialist in data people analysis. So when the number one problem we have in HR is that we have roles that are too confused. You get to a place, you see HR business partner. You get to HR generalist. You get to another place, you see HR manager. And the question is, the HR generalist is fit to be an HR manager because he can do a lot of things in the HR spectrum. The HR specialist is someone who focuses on just one aspect of HR. One or two aspects of HR. Now, the HR business partner is an HR generalist in quote assigned to an business unit in an organization. The organization has chosen to structure itself. But the HR, in a place where you have HR business partners, centrally they have HR manager. And what the HR manager does is to harness the effort of all the HR business partners in charge of the various SBUs. But the most important thing is, I always say to people, an HR assistant or associate is as good as an intern or your NYSC person. Or someone that is totally new to HR. Is a graduate, does not know anything in HR. You just want to give the person like a 1 year period to learn the ropes. That's the HR. But I like that you either call them HR officer or executive. Now, I tell you the truth. The word HR is even going extinct if you are not careful. You are beginning to see people operations officer. You are beginning to see people and culture officer. You are beginning to see human capital officer. You are beginning to see all sorts of titles. But the most important thing is how your organization is structured will determine, I talked about career development, career progression in. How your organization is structured in terms of your career development. Internally, it what determines the kind of titles you give to them and what role they play. There are some people, the HR manager is someone that just has 3 years experience. And there are some people, the HR manager is someone that has 15 years experience. Now they have the same title, are they performing the same role? I said, someone said to me when I took up a job, and on that job, they paid me in 7 figures. And the person said, oh, you are fortunate that most HR managers here get 300,000, 500. And I said, look, I am not most HR managers. I am a C-suite HR person. But in this organization, because they don't have a clear structure, they call it HR manager. Eventually, within a short time, change it to chief, people and culture. So the way the organization is structured, HR manager in company A may even be an HR assistant in company B. But so it is organization specific. And I hope that even CIPM at some point will begin to push for harmonization of HR titles and progressions in Nigeria. Because it's so confusing that when people advertise HR roles now, I don't even know. And they advertise HR role, HR officer role, and they say we'll be responsible for is you can't be responsible for. An HR officer is supposed to work under supervision. So an HR officer is more of an assistant to the HR manager who assigns specific roles to the person and provides guidance for the person. So those are just some of the things, but the roles are not cast in stone. It is organization specific. When your organization has a very good HR person, consult for them to design the thing, it could make sense. But in most cases, we bring people that say they are management consultants who are more of administrative people than HR people, and they just design what they think is fine, and they bring it up. I once worked in a place where CIPM had consulted for them before, and what CIPM did for them, I had issues with what CIPM did for them. And by the time I found out, CIPM just brought some people and said, these are our consultants, and they came to do it for them, collected the money and went away. So it's more about how is your organization structured. Don't forget last week, we said that your culture informs how you are structured. Culture is how we are, the way we live. Structure is how we are organized to work. And that structure will now begin to determine how people are also organized to progress within the organization. And I think I hope that answers your question around titles, designations, and the likes.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other question? We have a few minutes to go. Now, while we're waiting, if there's any other question, I want to say this. I see our responses to the case studies, and sincerely, it amazes me. And at some point, I thought about shutting down this program. And the truth is, if I shut down this program, I would lose nothing. But I also looked at those who have been committed to this program. Very few of us have shown interest in the case studies. And what you don't know is I can speak all the Turanchi I'm speaking here. The case study is supposed to be what gives you that first-hand experience as an HR professional. Because what we're doing is we gave you real-life problem on paper. You are supposed to think and brainstorm on it. And the moment you are party to the team that brainstormed and came up with the solution after your discussions, when you find these problems in real-life situation, you can solve them. But if you are not party to the discussion, you are only reading the report, you will not be able to solve the problem. That's why we have a lot of HR professionals who knows what they call global best practice, but give it to them, they still can't implement it. So I want to encourage you, be active in your groups. Interestingly, I show up in most group meetings or at most group meetings. I may not talk, and in most cases, I don't show up as me, except I want you to see me. In most cases, I show up as your group, so you won't know who it is. But the idea really is to know what is happening, to see what challenges people are having, and see how to be able to help. So I want to encourage you. Another case study is coming today again. For every topic we take, there will be a case study, and the idea behind it is simple, so that you can learn it. Let me tell you something. I just came back from a training. I went to facilitate training for 2 weeks in Lagos. And I'm going for another one next week. I'll be in Port Harcourt next week. And I can tell you how much people are paying for a day training. I tell you how much people are paying for a 4-day training. And the training in Port Harcourt is on payroll administration, and they are paying millions of naira to register for that training. And I don't know, and I don't see why you would not take this seriously. Someone said it's because people did not pay, so they are not taking it seriously, but I disagree. Because I take whatever comes to me free, I believe has cost someone, and I take it much seriously. So I want to encourage us. If there's any challenge, promise yourself you will overcome that challenge, because you are not going through this for me. I came back to base yesterday. Before this class, I was feeling very tired. I said to my wife, I am tired, but I'm not supposed to be the one to take this class. The person to take the class just yesterday said to me, oh, sorry, I won't be available. And so I had to prepare myself for the class. So I'm encouraging you, please pay attention to it. The case studies are your assets. The case studies are as important as the textbook I sent to you is. The case studies are more important because they are real life problems, and you are a good HR professional because you have been able to solve real life problems, not because you know the theories. So please, it's an encouragement. Let's get, there are groups that have never submitted one case study since we started, and we have given 3. Some groups have not submitted one. As a matter of fact, some groups have not had one meeting because I monitor. And there are groups that every week, as they end their weekly meeting, they send me directly, they send me report. I have the names of people who attended such meetings. Please, it's an encouragement. Whatever is worth doing at all is worth doing well. If you feel that the 5 weeks you have spent so far is a waste of your time, I encourage you, just take a walk. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your data. Don't waste your resources on what you feel is not adding any benefit to you. But if you feel that it's adding benefit to you, then take it more seriously. The group leads are participants like you. A good number of them are getting almost frustrated because they are trying to force everybody to work. But please, I encourage you, encourage your group leads and their deputies, and let's get these things up and running. Thank you very much. Is there any other question before we call it a day?
Yeah, good afternoon.
Yeah, the attendance.
Everyone.
Yes, the attendance. Please use the link for last week.
Okay. Can I go ahead?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, good afternoon. I have an issue that I want an advice on. It was an issue that happened yesterday in the office. It happened on Thursday night in the factory. A ceiling fell down, and by mistake, there was a bridge in wire in the factory while someone was trying to mix propylene and ethanol for one of our syrup products. So in the process of that, the thing caught fire and he burnt his face. Let's say it's a first-degree fire injury or burn. So the nurse there said she didn't want to wake me up when that thing happened. I think it happened around 11, but I saw the message around 4 a.m. when I woke up and I screamed. But I didn't know the gravity of the burn. So yesterday when I was in the office, I quickly went to the clinic. When I saw it, I said we should quickly rush this guy to the hospital. We got to the hospital, but to cut the long story short, the family of the person came and they were all shouting that they wanted to sue my company and all that. And I told them, calm down. So by the time they checked my ID card, oh, you're the human resource manager. I said, yes. So they were like, oh, good, you're here. This is it. They're going to sue us. They're going to take us. I said, no, it hasn't gotten to that because my company is going to bear the cost of all this thing. You guys are not paying 1 naira. But first of all, I want to ensure that my staff is okay. I kept on using staff, although this person is the contract staff and also staff. So I kept on using staff, my staff and all that. So I tried to specify both families and all that. But my point here is this. I didn't even know that this person did an interview last week. I conducted that interview. So the family was now saying that the only way that they can get compensated is I make this person a staff. And I'm like, first of all, I am particular about the health of my staff. Let this guy get well first before we can start talking about having to staff this person. So they went on and on and on. So I now asked the patient, I said, okay, did you do this interview last week? He said, yes. I now told him, I said, okay, guy, having to be a staff now is not my issue. Come out of this state because it's a serious burn. His face is actually burnt. By the time I now called for the result, I had to chat one of my colleagues, the assistants there. I quickly chatted her up. I said, please send me the results, the analysis of the result of the interview done last week, which she did. And by the time I saw the result, I found out that this particular person was, out of 15 persons that we interviewed, the guy is number 12. So when I quickly told I had to excuse the head of plant there, and I told him, I said, see, this person is number 12, and they're telling me to give a commitment of which I cannot give a commitment. So the head of plant was like, see, madam, there are certain things you just have to do because they said they want to take it out. By the time they escalate this issue, my company will be at the receiving end. Before you know, you start having external people coming to investigate the issue and all that. I said, but I'm surprised that the family is giving me a commitment to do and to staff this guy at this point, which I will not do. But eventually, I just told the family that they shouldn't worry. Like I keep saying, my staff. So now my point is this: I did not tell them yes that I was going to staff this guy. But looking at the results, this guy came in number 12 out of 15. Now, I need just two persons as team leads in the factory. I need an advice. What do I do? Do I now staff this person? Because even when I interviewed this person, because I tried to remember everybody I interviewed. The guy couldn't even express himself, even when I asked technical questions. He couldn't explain. I know I asked him, give me what's the function or the role of a team lead, and the guy was blabbing. Is it that kind of person I want to put as team lead in the factory? So now I'm really confused. I don't know what to do. I don't know even what to say because I know.
Let me ask you a question, Elizabeth.
Please go ahead.
If I happen to be one of your casual staff, I got my finger. A part of my finger cut. Will that be enough to get a job?
No.
Okay, I asked that question because I'm going to say this. Number one, you need to separate issues. They are blackmailing you, and you don't play into their hands.
Okay.
I'll tell you the truth. In a contract of employment, the employer has the duty of care, which you are provided. It was an accident. Nobody pointed something at his face. You are already taking it up by taking care of him. That is your duty of care. It's required by law, and you have done what you should do. They have gone past where they have the capacity to get to. Recruitment and employment issues are official issues. Which court are they going to? What are they going to say to the court? Do you understand? They have no case. Interestingly, if your company has signed up with the employee consultation, what do they call it? There's this place in
JCC.
there's the Employee Compensation Act that established a fund, and the reason for that fund is in case there is any accident that happens while on duty. If you have been faithful in making your contribution to the fund, it will even be out of you. It is the fund that will be taking care of him. This is
sorry to cut
the
you.
truth, and I'll tell you the truth.
That fund you're talking about, the Compensation Act is now NSITF. Now, for NSITF, I make that 1% of total growth for my staff, not for
casual staff.
Yes.
Okay. That's fine. But this is the idea.
Okay.
You are meant to take him. You are taking care of him. But I'll tell you, if you want to spend less, you want to get the best of care, go to National Orthopedic Hospital. They have a bones center there. By the time they finish, it will almost look as if nothing happened to his face. And it's cheaper than most private hospitals. I just said that by the way. But let me say that don't ever allow anybody. See, somebody put that word in their mouth. And I won't be surprised if your factory or your plant manager knows about it. Because for your plant manager to also be telling you that. Number 12, we have been talking about equity. We have been talking about what is just. He does not deserve it. If you wanted to use it as a form of compensation, it should be from the company, not from... Because if I happen to be your internal auditor or your control or compliance person, and I come to check your books to say the interview you conducted, on what basis did you employ these people? And you give me a report that says the guy was number 12. I will flag it and I'll put a red whatever there. So my point is, they have no case against you. Sincerely, they have no case. There's nowhere they are going to. It's a baseless case. It was an accident. And the company has accepted responsibility for it. So what are they holding you accountable for? That you killed their brother or what? So please don't let them manipulate you into accepting what is not. But if it is something that in your own good heart or on the part of management, you now decide to say, you know what, let us do this. It is fine. But trust me, it's a wrong thing. And if you do it, you are setting a precedent. And people know how to take advantage of loopholes in systems. So my own little experience and my understanding of applicable laws, I'll tell you straight, they should go. I have the duty of care. If someone who is a casual staff gets involved in an accident on a shell platform, will it now make them say, by force, Shell must give the person appointment? No. We will take care of you. And after taking care of him and he's fine, if he's still fit for the casual work, retain him. If he's not fit, the only thing is that while he's in care, while he's recovering, you must keep him engaged. That's the best you can do. Keep him engaged as a casual staff until he recovers. Even when he's not able to come to work, pay him because he sustained the injury within your facility that will render him incapacitated for a short while. Yes, you can do that. That is a good one. Not for them putting you on condition to say you must, as a matter of fact, employ him, that's the only reason they won't sue you. Tell them to go to court, that you will do your duty of care. You care about his well-being, you will do it. And you make sure for as long as he's in recovery, he will still be engaged and he will be taken care of by the company. That's what the company needs to guarantee. When they go to court, which court are they going to? Are they going to accuse you? It's just a threat, trust me. It's an empty threat that can hold no water. And I'm talking to you as a professional. If it's as a person, I can say, okay, but you come into my facility to threaten me. No, I'll tell you straight what you cannot do. So that's my own advice. Keep him engaged while he's in recovery.
Hello, sir. Can I say something, sir?
Mr. Kayode.
Okay.
Yes.
Sammy, please hold on. Toby Thomas, go ahead.
Yes, some employees can be very funny, and as individuals, we owe ourselves a little bit or a level of responsibility. And I'm very sure in that organizations, there are safety health precautions or measures that have been kept in place. Did this staff make use of the safety materials to avoid that degree of burn? One. And number two, I won't be surprised if after this staff has recovered, it starts giving some flimsy excuses by underperforming at work. Do you understand? So if such a thing should happen, what would you expect her as the HR person to do? Would you still keep him because using that as an excuse, or she just do the needful?
No. The advice is, for as long as it's in recovery, keep him on your payroll because he sustained the injury at work. You see the question you asked? That is what the HSE officer should be doing. And at this point, you don't want to ask them such questions in order not to aggravate the situation. HR is not HSE. It is the job of the HSE person to confirm compliance with established safety protocols. But even at that, when there are breaches, yes, this has happened. And in most cases, there may not be a PPE to cover the face. In most cases, people that have PPEs for covering faces are people like welders and a couple of people that walks around highly flammable stuff. But because this was a fire that came as a result of a ceiling fan dropping, so in that case, even the HSE person becomes questionable. Is it that nobody monitors the state of installations in the factory? But that's not where we are. Here we're talking to HR professionals. One of our professionals is being pressured and being harassed by people. Tell them straight, they should go to court if they want to go to court. Your company is taking care of him. Your company will keep him on your casual labor payroll until he fully recovers from the burns on his face. Because as long as the burns are on his face, he will not be able to work somewhere else. That can now be termed as abandonment. But I'm saying that you are doing what you are doing on a good note, taking care of him, and okay, we'll pay you. However, don't employ him because they are threatening you. Tell them to go to court. And look, as HR professionals, we should get to a point when we can damn their consequences because we know we are doing the right. But when we have not done the right thing, we won't be able to tell them to go ahead. But in this case, you are sending him back home with the burns on his face. The judge will ask, are they treating the person or not? They'll say they are treating the person. Did somebody pour fire on his face or throw fire at his face? No, it was an accident. So who are you suing? Go and sue the accident. Go and sue the fan to court now. Because if the fan did not drop, the fire would not have, something would not have been breached. There wouldn't have been fire. So that's what I am saying. My advice is stick to what your professional ethics. We're doing this because we have the duty of care. And we will make sure that he's fine. Okay, to go the extra mile, while he's in recovery for 4, 5, 6 weeks, We will take care of him while he's in recovery until the hospital, and deliberately we get a certificate from the hospital certifying that he's fit to go back to work. Once you have that document, let them go anywhere. You take that document to court. The document clears you of any wrongdoing, and you'll be fine. That's my position here. Any other thing, someone else may know something better, but I don't like it when people come into organizations and want to hold you to ransom on something that you know that you haven't done anything wrong. No, but get your HSE officer to do a thorough investigation and write a report, because it will also come in handy at the right time. Yes, because we need to also guard against risks of such by making sure that everything is firmly fitted in place, and put a protocol in place that says that every month somebody must check to be sure that everything is still firmly in place. That's the idea behind health and safety. All right, Elizabeth, you wanted to say something?
Thank you. No, thank
you.
Okay. HSE, that was what I did yesterday, because I had to call her because I told them I need a root cause analysis of what that happened. It's actually a suspended ceiling. It's up. We did all of that yesterday in the factory. But, you know, for them to be able to, they have to climb. It's a very high place. You know, the way the factory is, you know. So, but what we now found out that it was water or something that, you know, the place it was somehow. So we've told them to now do that maintenance properly. So, but the truth is, because I was asking myself, how often do we have to do that maintenance because of the cost? You know, it's you know, the way factory is now, the ceiling is high. It's too high. So having to do
Elizabeth, Elizabeth, I'll tell you how often that thing should be done, right? If it's happening for the first time, it's an accident. If it happens the second time, it's time to be negligence. If it happens the third time, it's a criminal act. It's in nature. So we will do it as often as we need to guarantee the safety of people operating within that factory. All we need to do is, do we have the scaffolds or the ladder that the maintenance person or the HSE person can use to safely get to that height, to ensure that they confirm that that thing is fine? If we don't have it, then it should be bought, because that point is a point of, it's a concern to us. It has led to an accident. It could lead to an accident, and it won't always tell when it will lead to an accident. So deliberately, there has to be, like, if you happen to have been certified by ISO, incident like this should lead to a quality improvement initiative. When you now identify the problem and you do your PDSA cycle implementation, you have identified the problem, you plan on how to resolve the problem, you develop the solution, you study what has been developed, then you activate what has been developed, you act on it. Then it becomes a constant. In the process, we're able to put measures in place to ensure that such surprises don't happen again. Because if another one happens and a court gets to hear, the first one was an accident, why should it happen again? And that's why, sincerely, remove you as Elizabeth and leave you as HR manager, and let everybody do what they want to do. Don't bother yourself about the cost. You are only concerned about the safety of your people at whatever cost they want to talk about it. Let the HSE people and the factory people, let them resolve it. Yours is, they should give you a solution that guarantees the safety of your people.
So can I ask a question, sir? I've been hanging on.
Please go ahead.
Oh, okay. So to Elizabeth, no, well done, good job. So we're doing the right thing, like Coach Kayode has said. If you're doing the right thing, there's really nothing to be scared about. But in this whole process, one thing I want you to do is, if you have an internal legal team or you have a legal person of your company, you should also carry them along. Okay, they can also be able to tell you some things as it relates to this. But all they have been explained here. It's just the right thing. There's nothing to fear. Don't allow anybody to put you under any duress or emotional blackmail because something has happened. What if this person was even going out to their home and it happened on the road? We then come and tell you because it happened on the road. So it's because it's within the confine of the office. all right, and you're doing the right thing, which is humanly possible, to ensure that yes, this person is taken care of. They should not even as a matter of fact, if it's me and you tell me that thing at that spot, I'll tell, are you serious that you're trying to teach me my work? I'll tell you pop and play that we are not guaranteeing this. As a matter of fact, show them the result of this person's performance in the interview and give them your justification why you cannot do. But the best you're doing, which is the best practice, is taking care of this person because it's happened within the office. What if this person was going home and it happened on the road? So what you're doing is right, but also speak to your legal person in this scenario. Just my little addition.
Thank you very much, sir.
Listen,
Mr. Kayode, go ahead, sir.
What Sammy just said now is on point, especially the legal part. When you speak about the legal part, because there are legal ramifications to all these things. Elizabeth, Mr. Kolade has said entirely. When I heard someone telling me that you tell me that I have to employ staff, the contract staff, even if the person got first, the person got the best, and for reason that we choose not to employ the person, we staff the person. I will not staff go to your court as long as we have done our due diligence. We did, like you said, we are everything comes to staff. I will not under any circumstance, even if the end tells me to, the end have to sign that I would. The end have to write a sign for me to employ such a person. But as Kayode, I would not employ such a person because you cannot be blackmailing me to employ staff. Now the staff will now come in and now be say, oh yes, yes, I will. Nothing can. I'm untouchable. No, you are untouchable, and you have to go. So that's my take.
Thank you very much. I agree you talk to lawyers. But one thing that every HR professional needs to know is that you are the first lawyer in your organization when it comes to anything that has to do with employment relations. And I'll tell you why. Except the lawyer is a labor law expert, he may not be able to help you. And most organizations don't keep labor law experts. What they keep are criminal law, company law, litigation lawyers, and all those things. Maybe for me, I spent 18 months in school learning the legal aspects of HR. But it is expedient that if you know what the law says, if you know what the Labor Act says, you just know that there is no case. And let me tell you what people do. They size you up. When they see that, look, you are talking and you don't care, that you tell them straight, you know what, we're doing this, but if you want to go this route, go ahead. They will calm down. I have seen people walk into my office threatening me and I tell them, sorry, I can't help you. Go do whatever you want to do. Eventually they calm down. Point that we begin to have a conversation. We don't converse by you threatening me. But because I have an understanding about certain things, and it is expedient, because even the Labor Act we talk about, when it comes to staff getting involved in an accident on their way to work or on their way from work, if you know what the court had decided in previous cases, you realize that most of us don't also know the right thing. An organization has been held liable for a staff who was on his way home and was involved in an accident. The staff had closed. No, he was on his way from the house to the office when he was involved in an accident. And the court decided that the staff had left our house all in the business of the organization. So the organization is liable. Then I saw it when I was running my full-time master's on employment and labor studies. And I was like, how will they hold the company liable? But the company took responsibility for it because it was the court that decided it. Another person was at work. The company sent the person to Yaba. Let's say the company was at, where now? Let's say at Obalende. They sent the person to Yaba. And the person was found at Ojuelegba, had an accident at Ojuelegba during office hour. And the person said, no, I'm still at work. It's during my official hour. But the court held that, no, you were sent to Yaba from Obalende. You had no business going through Ojuelegba. What did you go to do? That the moment you stepped into Ojuelegba, you stepped out of the official boundaries covering you. And the court absolved the employer. So these are some of those things You see, there are decisions that have been made, judicial precedents, that when you familiarize yourself with some things that has to do with the employment relationship, you begin to realize some things. I have spoken to lawyers who were not labor law experts. They couldn't help me. He can help me with his basic legal understanding. But what they were taught in school and what happens at the National Industrial Court are two different things. And you need to keep conversant with what happens at the National Industrial Court to be able to know, because a lawyer can also advise you wrongly. It is good, yes, you have the professionals, and if you have labor law experts as friends, it may be a good one. You can always bounce things off them, and it will help you. But above all, they have no case. You need to get your own internal work done and get a report ready. Because even if they go to court today, you still need to be able to provide evidence of the things you have done in order to help this person. And those are the things that the court will look at. Say, if the company has gone to this extent, then you have no case, as it were. And I hope that the truth is, these conversations will always be ongoing. And these are some of the conversations that should be happening in your department, in your groups, you should be sharing with us. Thank you. I guess we have 3 minutes to be out of here, latest by 2:30. Any other question, any observation, any advice you want to give to anybody? Thank you very much for being in class today. Please take your group work more seriously.
Sorry, sir, I have a question. Please, sir, thank you for the lecture. Please, what is your name? Because most time when you fill the form, they ask you of the lecturer's name for today, the facilitator. Please, what is your name?
Seriously?
Sorry. Yes, so they will ask.
My name is simply Kayode
My
name is simply Kayode Johnson.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. So please, I encourage you, get busy in your groups. If you have any question that cannot be answered in your groups, push it to me. I will answer. If I can't answer your question, I will talk to some of my colleagues as well. We are in a community to learn and to share ideas to get better. Thank you very much, and do have a restful weekend. See you in class. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for today. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
God bless you.
Thank you.
And you're welcome back to Abuja, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm back at home.
You got agege bread.
No, I did not go to Agege.
You want agege bread?
There's Agege bread in Abuja now.
Thank you so much, sir.
You're welcome. Thanks for being in class today.
God bless you, sir.
Amen. You too, sir.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Somebody is speaking.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you, sir. It's not a question. Just wanted to contribute to something. When you were talking about some of us not participating and all that, at the time you were thinking of dropping the class. Well, on my own side, I really appreciate this. This lesson is not. I know if we're to pay how much we're going to pay for it,